Hey guys, what's up? KillJoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Today we are pitting the original Wrong Turn from 2003 against its now remake, Wrong Turn 2021. They both have the same title, so it might get a little confusing at points. I'll do my best to specify, but no promises. Now before I get into this epic battle of horror movies, I'm gonna need you guys to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Also, please consider supporting me on Patreon if you like the Scream movies. I'm making a Scream fan film. Unfortunately though, fan films are not cheap, so if y'all could help me out on there, that'd be pretty dope. Link will be in the description below. Alright, now let's get into it. Get over here! So real quickly, I just want to put a little disclaimer at the beginning of this video. If you haven't seen Wrong Turn 2021, you might want to watch this video later. I'm gonna be spoiling a bunch of plot points that if you haven't seen it, trust me, you don't want these spoiled. It's very different from its original franchise, like completely different movie. Alright, now for those of you who have seen it, let's talk a little bit about these movies. Wrong Turn from 2003 is a slasher film directed by Rob Schmidt and written by Alan B. McElroy. The film notably stars Desmond Harrington and Eliza Dushku, whose name sounds a little dirty. Wrong Turn 2021, also known internationally as Wrong Turn The Foundation, is a horror film directed by Mike P. Nelson and written once again by Alan B. McElroy. Something interesting about this franchise is Alan B. McElroy wrote the original film, didn't write any of the sequels, and then has come back to do this remake. You don't see that with every horror franchise. It's pretty cool. The film is a reboot and the 7th installment of the Wrong Turn film series, and notably stars Charlotte Vega, Daisy Head, and Matthew Modine. It is a very, very different movie than the other films. But on that very, very different note, let's get into the good. Starting off with Wrong Turn from 2003, a big positive for this film is the Cannibal Killers. I'm surprised that's not the name of a death metal band yet. Stan Winston famously produced the original Wrong Turn and was so interested in it because he loved the idea of like crazy cannibalistic mountain men. So they ended up putting a lot of attention and detail into these characters. They all have their own different personalities, which makes for some really great and entertaining scenes throughout this movie. Three Finger has like a whole bunch of energy and does that creepy giggle thing. That wasn't very good, but you get the point. And then like Sawtooth and One Eye are like a little more slow and lumbering and almost childlike at points. It's a really good contrast to characters. The kills are nasty! If the original Wrong Turn series is good for anything, it's those nasty ass kills. One of my favorite ones from the original film, when you see the one girl get her head like half decapitated, like right through the mouth, and then you see like her head's still there, but her body like falls down the tree. I also like the other girl who gets like the barbed wire through the mouth. There's a lot of mouth kills in this movie now that I'm thinking about it. The James Brown explosion? Pointed out by James and Chelsea from Dead Meat in their podcast, you can actually hear the beginning screech from the song I Got You by James Brown. You know, the one song where he's like, I feel good. The other thing that's really weird about this movie is earlier in the film, Scott's character is actually dissing James Brown and talking about how insufferable it is to listen to him. It's such a bizarre thing to set up, but I really appreciate it, I guess. It's silly, so I'm down for it. I wonder what was going on like behind the scenes to where that decision was made. It's just something interesting that I like to point out. Moving on to the new Wrong Turn from 2021. Once again, this movie delivers horrifying kills. Although not as frequent as the original series, the kills in this movie are just as horrifying and just as gory. The head getting smashed by that giant log. Also later in the film, a head is smashed by a tree branch. Mouth kills in the first movie and head smashes in this one. There's also a really upsetting shot towards the end of this film where Jen and her dad are escaping the compound, or I guess the foundation, and they run into their one buddy who got his eyes like burned out of his skull, and he's just like sitting there eating a rat, and it's so upsetting. Mercy kills usually aren't that disturbing, but this one just especially struck a chord with me. I'm still thinking about it afterwards. Multiple twists and turns in this plot that I honestly did not see coming. I love that the first 30 minutes of this movie kind of feels like an original Wrong Turn film, and then right after that takes a total twist into unknown territory. The whole middle of this movie feels like a crazy like cult movie. We're getting sacrificial kills here, and then like the last 5 minutes is kind of like a crazy home invasion thriller. This movie is all over the place with its different kind of genres it's exploring and its tone. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that's a big plus for me. See, I've already seen like a slasher, a cult film, a home invasion thriller, thriller. Why not throw all those into one movie? Boom! That's what this movie does really successfully. Political undertones with a very relevant message. The message behind this film is very clear. If the two groups of people in this movie weren't so afraid of each other, none of this would have really happened, if you think about it. So maybe we just all gotta learn to get along. I'm not trying to get political or anything, but you know. My point is, there is a moral to this story, and I think it's a good one, even if it's kind of covered in blood. Charlotte freaking Vega. She gives an amazing performance in this movie. I love Jen's transformation in this movie. She really is a dynamic character. She kind of starts off just following her boyfriend, kind of just doing whatever he wants. And they also talk about how she hasn't really made a decision for what she wants to do with her life. That's why she goes on this trip in the first place, to just kind of like escape her problems. But she ends up turning into this character that is just so badass and doing everything she can to stay alive. She radiates some serious badass final girl energy that your boy is a fan of. The writing and directing is absolutely phenomenal in this movie. Like I said in my non-spoiler review, McElroy might have helped write Spawn, but he also wrote this, and this is a tight script. And Nelson's direction is also incredible. Unfortunately, I had to pee because this is a 2-hour movie towards the end of it, but right after the end credits, there was actually this behind the scenes like featurette that they played. I actually got to see some like behind the scenes footage. We saw Mike directing some of the characters, and he seemed so into it. It looked like they had a really fun time on set too. There was a lot of footage of the cast just like hanging out and get along with each other. It was great. I love to see stuff like that. The last shot of this movie. Oh my god. When you get to the part where the cult actually tracks down Jen, goes to her house, and the one dude's just sitting at her dinner table, I was like, fuck. I honestly wouldn't have minded that ending. I was like a little disappointed. I was like, really? She did all that to get out? Now they just kind of like tracked her down. They're taking her back? Ah, that kind of sucks. She walks outside and like you just see all these cult members just standing around an RV just waiting to pick her up. I don't know. There was something really horrifying about that. And something else I noticed is that Darius's character is there in the background, but he's kind of like blurred out. It's metaphoric, I think, because he's like just part of this cult now. That is really brilliant cinematography that I just could not stop appreciating. And then you see the RV going down the road. I was like, that's not the best ending, I guess. I mean, it would be kind of cool if something happened. And then, oh my god, something happened. The RV just loses control, runs into a car, and then you just see Jen come out of the RV just murdering the hell out of everybody. So she killed everybody in that RV except the little girl. That was so mind-blowing. Literally everyone was getting up out of their seats ready to leave, and then everyone just stopped and looked at the screen like, wow. I mean, what an experience in the theater. And what a great way to end your movie too, especially because you thought it was over, like, oh, this is it, I guess, this sucks. And then you just get like one last massacre. What a way to end a movie, seriously. I was really impressed by this. Moving on to the bad of the original Wrong Turn. Stereotyping mountain people ain't that cool, dog. I'm sure that the great folks that live in the Appalachian Mountains, West Virginia area, don't really appreciate the inbred stereotypes. So yeah, I kinda gotta give a negative to this movie for basically just making a whole horror film about that. I'm not gonna shit on a movie that isn't going for more than a straight up slasher. Sure, you can argue that there's a lot of things wrong with this film, but like, it's just going for a slasher with gory kills. It doesn't have the best plot in the world, or the characters don't make the best decisions, but that's the point! I'm not gonna make that a negative for this film, because it just wasn't trying to be like the most smart or clever thing on the planet. Kind of opposed to its remake though, that kinda is trying to be a little smart and witty. But personally, I like to judge movies based on what they were going for in the first place, and I think that the original Wrong Turn was just trying to be a crazy, gross slasher with mountain men cannibal killers. And I think it succeeds at that. Moving on to Wrong Turn 2021. The only negative scene in this whole film is that scene at the beginning. There's this one scene at the beginning of the film where it's so stereotypically country versus city. It's just like, come on, I've seen this in a movie a million times before. This scene is kind of redeemed though, because it sets up that scene later where Jen escapes with her dad. The conservative hillbillies actually come to the rescue and help him out. Even if they did awkwardly beat up her dad in an earlier scene, which I still kind of don't like. That's also, that might also be a negative for me as well. So am I giving out the ugly award? Heck no! Fortunately, we're not talking about any of the Wrong Turn sequels, so I'm not giving out the ugly award today. But I think the winner might shock some people. I'm gonna give it to the reboots. I love the original Wrong Turn. It is a great slasher film, but ultimately, just because of concept alone, the new Wrong Turn is just so much better, more interesting and thought-provoking, and just does a lot more than its predecessor. The Wrong Turn reboot is a perfect example example of what I want to see in remakes of horror films. Take that basic concept that the original film did and just elevate it to new heights. That is what this reboot does so perfectly. I used to use the Evil Dead remake as kind of an example of that. This is just such a better example. Hollywood really needs to start remaking films that were just okay from the past that had a lot of popularity and then like do this to that. Give it new levels, do it well, and just make a better film. So many remakes are just put out for cash grabs, and that's really upsetting because you could make something like this, especially when you're already starting with such a good concept. So I'm really hoping this film gains some popularity because honestly, it was kick-ass. Easily my favorite Wrong Turn film out of all of them. So what do you guys think about these results? Did you watch this whole video and you still haven't seen Wrong Turn 2021? If you did, I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna make it look like a bloody accident. Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching my Wrong Turn versus video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at KillJoyJake1, on Instagram at KillJoy_Jake, and on TikTok, just KillJoyJake. Please consider supporting me on Patreon, it's gonna help fund my Scream fan film. And as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.